Some people spend their lives running from the dark. Others walk straight into it, not with fear, but with questions. Gaurav Tiwari was one of those people. He didn't believe in ghosts the way most people do. He didn't chant, pray, or carry talismans. He carried instruments, data recorders, science. For years he entered abandoned buildings, cremation grounds, and places people refused to step into after sunset. Not to provoke spirits, but to understand fear itself. And yet, in July 2016, India woke up to a shocking headline. Gaurav Tiwari found dead inside his locked apartment. No warning, no goodbye, no answers. This isn't just a ghost story. This is the story of a man who investigated the unknown and left behind one of India's most haunting mysteries. Welcome to Vanishing Point. Gaurav Tiwari was born in India and later studied in the United Kingdom. He had a background in psychology and an analytical mindset that set him apart from the usual paranormal scene. While others relied on belief, Gaurav relied on skepticism. He often said that most hauntings can be explained by carbon monoxide, sound frequencies, stress, or just the human mind's incredible ability to create patterns in darkness. In 2008, he founded the Indian Paranormal Society, one of the first organized groups in the country dedicated to investigating paranormal claims using scientific methods. He was a vocal critic of fake godmen and superstition. You could find him on national television, challenging long-held beliefs and encouraging people not to panic. Ironically, he warned that the most dangerous part of paranormal investigation wasn't ghosts. It was what fear does to the human brain. Over the years, Gaurav investigated hundreds of cases, homes where people claimed to hear voices, places where shadows moved without explanation, rooms where occupants reported choking sensations or a sudden overwhelming dread. In many of those cases, he found logical explanations: faulty wiring causing electromagnetic interference, sleep paralysis, simple environmental factors that the mind misinterpreted as something sinister. He was a debunker, a truth seeker. But that work came at a cost. Friends later revealed that Gaurav rarely slept properly. He traveled constantly. He was always on alert, always listening, always analyzing. The human mind was his real battlefield. And slowly, that battlefield started to follow him home. In the months leading up to his death, something changed. Those close to Gaurav noticed he was quieter, more withdrawn. He spoke about exhaustion, about feeling mentally drained. He wasn't afraid, he said, but he was overwhelmed. He reportedly told friends that constant exposure to fear-based environments leaves an imprint, that the brain doesn't always know when the danger has passed. Despite this, there were no classic signs of severe depression. He had plans. He had projects lined up. He even talked about stepping back from fieldwork, not because he feared ghosts, but to protect his own mental health. Then came July 2016. On July 7th, Gaurav was inside his apartment in Dwarka, a suburb of Delhi. He was alone. There were no distress calls, no unusual messages, no final social media posts. The next morning, when he didn't respond, concern grew. Friends went to his apartment. The door was locked from the inside. When they finally managed to get in, they found Gaurav dead in his bathroom. The scene raised immediate questions. There were no signs of forced entry, no struggle, no damage. The apartment was calm, almost undisturbed. Authorities later stated the cause of death as asphyxiation due to hanging. The case was quickly classified as a suicide. But from the moment the news broke, a shadow of doubt spread across the country. Gaurav's family refused to accept the official conclusion. They stated clearly and publicly, he was not suicidal. He was mentally strong. He was optimistic about the future. There was no suicide note, no explanation, no clear reason why a man who spent his life confronting fear would suddenly succumb to it in such a final, silent way. His friends echoed the same sentiment. They described Gaurav as rational, focused, and deeply grounded in logic. So what happened? As the police investigation concluded, the official record closed. But the public conversation did not, because Gaurav himself had spoken repeatedly about something that now felt terrifyingly relevant. He talked about the psychological toll of investigating darkness. He believed that the mind absorbs its environments, even when the body remains unharmed. Repeated exposure to fear, isolation, and suggestion can lead to very real, very clinical conditions. Anxiety disorders, sleep disruption, dissociation, even hallucinations. These aren't supernatural phenomena, they are neurological, and sometimes they're invisible until it's too late. So one theory is that Gaurav simply suffered from extreme mental fatigue, that the man who taught others how to manage fear couldn't manage his own burnout. It's a plausible human explanation, but for many it felt incomplete. This led others to whisper darker theories, that something had finally followed him home, that he encountered something he couldn't explain with his instruments or his logic, that science had finally failed him. But here's the crucial point. There is no evidence to support any paranormal involvement. No recordings, no data, no final message, pointing to something otherworldly. There is only silence. What makes this case so unsettling isn't what we know, it's what we don't. Why was there no note? Why was there no clear emotional breakdown leading up to that day? Why did a man who understood fear better than almost anyone else face his death so utterly alone? And why did someone who dedicated his life to explaining the unknown leave behind a mystery with no explanation at all? Gaurav Tiwari spent years telling people not to fear ghosts, but his story reminds us of something far more disturbing, that the human mind, when placed under constant pressure, in isolation, exposed to darkness long enough, can become its own haunted place. His death remains officially classified, but in the minds of many the case remains wide open. Not because of spirits or shadows, but because the answers vanished with him. Some stories end, others fade into silence, and some, like this one, become questions we are afraid to ask ourselves. This was the story of Gaurav Tiwari, a man who searched for truth in the dark and somehow disappeared into it. Thanks for watching. If you have thoughts on this case, leave them in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to Vanishing Point for more stories that linger in the shadows.